So I don't know if anyone else has seen this in chat, but this is a very funny story from today. It's gone reasonably viral, but not as viral as it should have done considering the subject matter. But it's definitely funny for us to cover anyway. And that is that the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, who is currently releasing a book about high-profile female economists, modern economists who shaped modern economics, right? Will she include Joan Robinson and Eleanor Ostrom? I highly doubt it. But even so, she's releasing a book from a feminist angle, which is fair enough. Not enough coverage has been given to a lot of women in the economics profession, to be fair. But one might expect that the book that she would be releasing, A, that she would have written, and B, that she would have used original information for. And turns out, neither of these things are true, because she's admitting mistakes after being accused of plagiarism in the new book. Shadow Chancellor says she holds her hands up in response to a Financial Times piece on seemingly copied passages in work on female economists. Rachel Reeves says she holds her hands up and acknowledges making mistakes in her new book about female economists after she faced allegations of plagiarism. The Shadow Chancellor admitted on Thursday that some sentences in her book, The Women Who Made Modern Economics, were not properly referenced in the bibliography. I mean, you can't just copy and paste from Wikipedia, which what it appears has happened in multiple quotes. You just copy and pasted statements, right? They weren't in quotes. They weren't shown to be where they to be quoted and then footnoted, then forgot to footnote it. No, they were just sentences that were included that were borrowed from somewhere else, right? That's not quoting a source. That's plagiarism. That's copying, right? Those aren't the same thing. Saying, and such wrote, here's my quote, and then ending again. That's a quotation that you can source, and that's not a problem. Just copying a piece of text and inserting it inside your own text, that clear delineation of where it's come from and the fact that it is a quote is plagiarism. That's just what plagiarism is. An examination by the FT of the book found more than 20 examples of passages from other sources that appear to have been either lifted wholesale or reworked with minor changes without acknowledgement. So it's basically iilluminaughtii. Like, that's who she is. She's iilluminaughtii in just passing off other people's sentences as her own. Because at least iilluminaughtii, right, would copy whole passages or just change certain bits of information, like the documentary from Brian Deere about Andrew Wakefield that she just lifted sentences out of interspersed with footage from the actual documentary that H. Bomber guy tweeted about. At least she said, well, I got some information here from this Brian Deere documentary. In this book, they've not even cited where they lifted these passages from. So it's not just plagiarism, it's also crappy plagiarism. There's not even like plausible deniability like iilluminaughtii had. The fact that Rachel Reeves is now a worse plagiarist than iilluminaughtii is should tell you something, really and truly. Basic Books, the publisher, has said some sentences should have been rewritten and properly referenced, and pledged to review all sources in the book, but added that at no point did Rachel seek to present these facts as original research. I mean, if you don't specifically state that they aren't, most people would assume that they were. The sources cited by the paper include an obituary from The Guardian, several Wikipedia entries, and a passage from a fellow Labour frontbencher. That's what the FT have provided there. There is an extensive and selective bibliography of over 200 books, articles, and interviews, where facts are taken from multiple sources. No author would be expected to reference each and every one. Yes, they would. Yeah, you reference everything that you put in. You can't just copy passages and then not reference it. You also just can't copy passages without referencing the fact that it is a quote and not indeed your words as an interpretation of a source, right? That's not what sourcing is. Speaking to BBC Broadcasting House, Reeves said, "It is true that there were some sentences in the book that were not properly referenced in the bibliography. I am the author of that book and I hold my hands up and say I should have done better." What they're trying to say here is that it's fine that we lifted whole sentences, but if we'd have sourced them correctly, it would have been fine. And I'm just going to tell you now, chat, that's not true. It's not true that if she'd have just said where she sourced it from, it would be fine, right? Because I could quote the entirety of the Wikipedia page for the history of Walker's Crisps, get a text-to-speech reader to read out the article and put it on YouTube, and that would still be plagiarism even if I put the Wikipedia page in the source chat. Like, that's not how sourcing works. That's not how using sources works. What you're supposed to use sources for is for the information that you then present in a certain other context. It's not just copying and pasting it into the Word document. Asked if the errors were the result of her being too busy, she said, "Obviously I had research assistants on the book, but I take responsibility for everything that is in that book." So what that means is they did all the work for her, because clearly she's on a long tour, speaking at conferences, being her constituency MP, which is a full-time job in and of itself. That's what we pay her £85,000 a year for, plus her shadow ministerial salary as well. Let's not forget on top of that, somehow she's found enough time outside of that to write a book. An entire whole book that she can reference and source, over 200 sources apparently in the bibliography, that she can do that alongside her full-time job of being an MP, as well as also a further full-time job of being Shadow Chancellor as well. Somehow, chat, I find that difficult to believe. Don't know about anybody else. I think that the research assistants helping her probably did most of the work. Obviously, I can't confirm or deny that, but it's just my reckon. It's my reckoning. What I reckon. It's interesting just how brazen the Labour frontbench really is in terms of just being completely unscrupulous individuals. Completely unscrupulous. But hey-ho, whatever gets her little bag, I guess, so that she can do a little tour about how much of an intellectual she is, how many chess championships that she's won. Apparently that's what matters really and truly. Just want to put our book to look like I'm smart, for prestige really and truly. But I think that's all it was, to me personally. That's all it looks like that it is. What I wanted to do was to bring together the stories of these women, and if I'm guilty of copying and pasting some facts about some amazing women and turning it into a book that gets read, I'm really proud of that. At least she's admitting that she just copy and pasted shit. But that's not how sourcing works. You're supposed to quote it, put quotation marks, says, quoting Wikipedia, this says this from this source. Not just write it out and pretend it's your own words when it isn't. That's plagiarism. I will put this right because any future reprints, I'll make sure that everything is properly referenced in the bibliography. That is important to me, and I will put right those mistakes. So we've gone from plagiarism to pseudo-plagiarism a la iilluminaughtii, rather than actual proper sourcing. Okay. So one step up from just blatant plagiarism. The FT pointed out that one of the themes in the book was the failure to properly acknowledge the work of female economists. No, chat, no. Rachel, what are you doing? What are you doing, lass? Caught in 4K. The book was launched on Wednesday night at a party in Carlton Gardens attended by several members of the Shadow Cabinet, including Stress Wheating and Hilary Benn. A 2021 foreword on a report on global development by Tony Benn for Tony Blair's Global Change think tank is one of the excerpts that appears to have been reworked in the book without any acknowledgement. I'm not going to quote the whole passage there for you. The FT also found a passage in Reeves' book about the philosopher Elizabeth Anscombe that was very similar to an obituary published in The Guardian in 2001. The FT reported that it found the similarities without using plagiarism detection software. It cited a number of examples from Wikipedia. These included an account of a clash between the writer H.G. Wells and Beatrice Webb, the social reformer and key figure in the Fabian Society, because of course. Reeves's book says, for her part, Beatrice voiced disapproval of well-sorted intrigue. And there's the Wikipedia entry for comparison there as well, which you can pause, future YouTube viewers, and you can look at those plagiarisms for yourself to confirm that they are not being misrepresented by myself, the FT, or indeed the Guardian. But it just shows just how brazen these people are. They are so embedded into a political class, they feel like they can just get away with it. They feel like they can get away with it. And what's crazy, right, is all of the Labour defenders, they won't call this shit out. But when Jeremy Corbyn writes a poetry book with Len McCluskey, which, to be fair, bit cringe, it was a bit of a cringe moment. I'm not gonna say that I thought that this was Jeremy Corbyn's finest moment, but to be fair, poetry is nice. It was at least a little bit heartwarming if it was a little bit cringe. It was sweet cringe, yeah? It was the kind of cringe that you just have to kind of smile at. Whereas this is full-blown kind of occupational malpractice by pretending to write a book, getting someone else to help with most of it, and then they plagiarise to write half of it because they can't be bothered to do it properly. This is occupational malpractice that she's engaging in, whilst, ostensibly being one of the most powerful shadow politicians in the country. And she'll just get, no criticism from all of the Labour stands over this, but very, very funny nonetheless. Guido Fawkes apparently have tweeted about this, apparently according to Solly, so this should be interesting to have a look at. Rachel Reeves had her IPSA expenses card suspended in 2015 after an IPSA investigation found over $4,000 of her spending was not shown to be valid spending. I mean, yeah, she is, of course, as Keir Starmer was with his reckless spending on expensive and fancy chauffeuring when he was Director of Public Prosecutions, just shows how deep into the Westminster culture a lot of these supposed Labour politicians are, right? You'd think better of them, but now they've seen that the Tories can get away with it and have gotten away with it for so long. They're very happy not to upset the apple cart because you just completely end up upsetting the apple cart for everybody when you all know that you have the personal same material interests as each other, and you don't want to upset that because then it's like firing first in a duel. If you miss, everybody's fucked, right? Somebody once quoted her own words back at her and she failed to recognise them. That is indeed a thing that happened. Someone did indeed quote Rachel Reeves' own words back at her, and she prevaricated and got humiliated by this person when she didn't realise that she was having her own words quoted at her on her ideological climb down. If anyone wants to put me in touch with whoever that particular person might be, I'd like to buy them a drink, because that was a pretty Giga Chad moment, or Giga Stacey moment potentially, if I may say so myself. But yet another litany of Rachel Reeves' failures can be added to the list of the ritual humiliations and failures of the Labour leadership currently, Because remember, chat, I will say this, like I have said every single time, right? This is what the adults in the room looks like, chat. All of that messing around when Jeremy Corbyn was in charge, being activist politics or engaging in gesture politics or being unserious politician, that time's gone. That's over now. Now we only have the grown-up adults in the room in charge now. Sensible politics, where we plagiarize books, where we use the Muslim community as props, and where we pay lip service to our geopolitical allies whilst they violate humanitarian law on our watch. Brilliant, great, very adult, very grown up. Well done, everybody. Looks like the Liberals looks like the Liberals did indeed get exactly what they wanted after all. So thanks. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.